Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast or interview. That's what it actually is. And today I'm delighted to be joined again by Jack Burke. You might recall him from not only the first interview we did, but also we did the Tour of Flanders breakdown together, which was very good. But yeah, Jack, do you just want to reintroduce yourself to people who might not have watched the first interview and things like that?
Well, I'm Jack. When people ask me what do I do, I'm like a professional child. Like I just have fun all day now. But so I'm Canadian. I'm 29 years old. I spent my whole life basically trying to make it to the World Tour in cycling. Like so I started racing when I was like 14 and that was always the goal, like World Tour, Olympics, Tour de France, that's it. And then my career basically kind of ended so at the very start of 2023, like January whatever 5th or something like that. I was hit by a car when I was out training. And then that basically ended my career because I was really beat up after that. And it took like I had a lot of brain damage and a broken back and all this kind of stuff. And that basically kind of like ended my career. And then I wrote a book that blew up and that took off. And then I have a podcast and I do all this other stuff now. And so like that's what I mean. Like I just kind of have fun all day now. And I kind of like I was just exercising for fun during the time. And so I basically thought like I was retired and then maybe I'd get into like ski mountaineering racing and just like riding for fun and doing all this kind of stuff. Like to try to give like the shortest recap, like I'd basically been retired for like 18 months while like a lot of the brain injuries sort of healed. And then I have my podcast, and through my podcast, I ended up interviewing a coach that I'd never heard of. Like this guy had been a coach in Canada for over 30 years. I'd never heard of this guy. And then one of my mentors, who was like Swain Tuff, like posted something about him. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like it'd be interesting to have this guy on my podcast. And he was just a coach, and we recorded that episode at the end of April, I think. And I was so impressed with this guy that I was like, man, like I'd love to have this guy coach me or something like that. And so we recorded like a 2 hour long podcast. And then we talked for another 2 hours after the podcast. And by the end of it, he's convincing me that he wants to train me, like coach me. And I'm just like, I'm stoked that somebody wants to work with me. Like amazing. Like but I'm like, dude, what are we training for? Like road bikes, gravel bikes, mountain bikes, or ski mountaineering? Like I don't have a bike. I don't have anything. Or like I have like an old bike and stuff like that. I'm like, what are we training for? And he's like, oh, let's just start training. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then so we started training, not really knowing what for. Like, well, here's the other thing. It's like my whole life, like I've been so driven, like I'm the one just like punching the gas pedal all the time, and everyone else is trying to like get me to slow down. And now is like the first time in my life where everybody else is trying to convince me to go racing again. And I'm like racing's expensive. Like that's why I wanted to get into ski mountaineering because it's like if you don't have like team support, it's like, man, you can't keep dumping your own money into bike racing for that. Versus like ski mountaineering, it's skis, boots, poles. I'm like that's so much like it's a lower budget sport to go with. But then like my friends can talk me. So the first race that I did was this, like I was talking to one of my friends one night because he just got a new apartment and I asked him like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm training for this race across the Alps, this like crazy endurance race. It's like 530 kilometers, 14,500 meters of climbing. And you just do all the big mountains around Livigno. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this in 2 weeks. Like you should do it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I just thought it was like a cool route because I know all the climbs. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. If I have like the support for it and a sponsor for it, yeah, no problem. I'll do it. Absolutely. And then like 2 days later, I'm telling like we're just hanging out at one of my buddies' places and I'm telling them about this race, like, oh, this stupid idea Philip wants me to do. And they're like, if you do that race, we'll be your support crew. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second here. That's not where I was going with this. Anyways, they talked me into doing the race and I did it and I got third at the race, which was like sick. I mean, this is the most ridiculous race ever. It was like 20 hours to do it. Like you start at 1 o'clock on Friday, race through the night and finish Saturday morning. Like ridiculous, right? Like so silly. And then through some of my friends, I ended up getting Scott Austria or like Scott Austria Germany, like Scott the Bikes as a sponsor. And they based like it was so crazy because my whole life I've just been like dying to try to get like any sort of support and like try to race and put everything together and you're just doing everything by yourself. And they basically just like handed me a blank check. They were like, not for money, but for equipment. They were like, yeah, what bike do you want? What just go onto the website, tell us all the equipment you need, whatever you need, just like let us know. Here you go. Just like tag us on Instagram. I'm like, what? Like, are you kidding? And I'm like, okay, cool. But then this was in like August, and I'm like, well, I don't think there's that many races left for the year. Like, I only know of like these two marathon races. And then I was talking to like the same buddy again. This was on Thursday, and he's like, oh, there's a race on Saturday that goes up Kutai, like which is like one of the famous climbs in the Alps here that like a lot of pros go do training camps on and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'll go do that. And then like I won it and I broke the course record on it. And it was like amazing. So I'd only been training with this coach for like a couple months and he was driving me nuts with some of the training plans because now he's training me like a world tour pro again. And I'm like, dude, like I've just been riding like 3 hours a day in the middle of the day to give my brain a break. And now we're training like so hard again. And I wanted to, if I could call him during some of the rides, I would have been so pissed and been like, why am I doing this?
So what kind of training do you do then? What
Uh,
does this kind of world tour, because most people don't, myself
yeah.
included,
Oh,
what is the difference between 3 hours a day to a world tour rider level training?
I mean, like mostly the hours, right? So like for basically like 18 months or so, I'd been riding like 8 to 12 hours a week, like just and like exercise, not training, like just go for a spin in the middle of the day type thing. Okay, so a normal training ride that like you ask a pro, like what's a hard day? It would be something like 5 hour ride and then maybe like 2 hours zone two riding, and then they'd be like 3 times 10 minute 40/20 somewhere in the middle, and then 2 hours riding home. Like that's a pretty normal workout that you do. With this guy, it's like now I have his name's Steve Neal. If anyone wants to like go find the podcast and stuff like that, amazing guy. I love working with him.
Don't worry,
But
it'll be in the description for anyone if they
yeah,
want to
yeah,
see it.
sure. But no, it would just be like structured with like zones and cadence and power. Like the whole every minute of the workout is structured. And I'm like, dude, you're boiling my brain with these workouts. I got to stare at the computer for 5 hours here looking at this thing. Like you'd normally have like some mess around, just get the hours in riding time with most coaches. Like you can put on like a podcast, an audiobook, listen, like I'd listen to my country music or something like that. And now it's like I got Rage Against the Machine and Eminem going the whole time. I started trying them in May. Now it's the middle of October. I haven't had a ride yet where I'm not listening to pump up music the whole time. But yeah, like he basically just had me doing like this training that I thought was nuts. And the way I describe, so I recorded a podcast after like I won one of the races, the Ötztaler, and just like talking about like in detail all the stuff I did. And the analogy I gave, if you've ever seen the movie The Karate Kid, so when Mr. Miyagi's getting him to do like all these chores and he's like, what the hell am I doing? Like, when are you going to teach me how to fight? Like, I'm just your gardener here, man. And then like eventually he has the moment where he's just like, okay, show me paint the fence, show me sand the floor, wax on, wax off, all this stuff, and he knows how to fight. It's like I had that day. So like the races that I won this year was like that race up the well, I won all the races I did this year except for that endurance race where I was third. But so I won the race up Kutai, which was just like a mountain time trial basically. But it was cool because like I broke the record up it, and I was like, huh, like that's starting to look like the old Jack. Like that's pretty sick. Like those are like old numbers for me. That's pretty cool. And then a few weeks later, like a month later, we had like the Ötztaler, and I think that was my best performance of the year so far. And that was like my best fitness that I've had so far this year. And that's, I don't know, it's like the unofficial amateur Grand Fondo World Championships. Like it's really big for the amateur cyclists, and it's a loop. Like I live in the middle of the course, so it's like a loop of my backyard, and I won it before in 2022 as well, or 2 weeks before that race. I had like a weekend away with my friends in Bormio, like just like a cycling vacation for a weekend, and it was just like fun. It was a nice little mental break. But when I got back, I was so pissed at myself because I'm like, man, like you got to take this seriously. Like, come on, like let's actually try training here. So I just texted my coach. I was like, dude, I just need the day off just to go ride and like go get my frustration out. And dude, I was flying. And I was like, holy shit, the old Jack is back. This is great. Like, this is awesome. I can do something with this. And then, so, like, for the next 2 weeks, I was like, dude, like, your one job is to keep me from blowing all the rockets before the race. Cause, like, when we're winning this race, if nothing goes wrong, when I go, nobody's coming with me. And then, like, that race was perfect. Like it couldn't have gone better. So like I broke the course record at that one, and I was like solo for the last 3 hours. And then after that, like I put the data and everything on Strava. Like I don't really use Strava that much, but I put it up on Strava. So a lot of people were stoked on it. But then I started getting messages from like World Tour riders being like, dude, like you should send this to the pro teams. Like, why aren't you like in the World Tour or something like that? Like, and I'm like I tried, man. I gave it everything I had for 16 years. Like I tried as hard as I could. Yeah. So the week after, then I won the Kitzbühel race. And we got the course record on that one as well. Oh, and then there was a mountain bike race. So like my friends asked me to do a mountain bike race with them. It was like these cool like relay races they do in Austria. And I didn't have a mountain bike, so they gave me the mountain bike the day before just so I could like set up the satellite and stuff like that. And I like did it in my road shoes. And I ended up winning that one too. And it was like, oh, this is sick. And then yeah, everybody's just been like, dude, you gotta like try to get to the World Tour. And I'm like, a lot of people encourage you to try to get to the World Tour, but they don't actually know what the development path is. And so like I don't want this just to be like a story about me. Like I'd like to try to give some advice to guys on what that's like. And the hardest part, it's like, so I'm 29 years old, and with how professional the sport's gotten, it's not just that it's younger now and they only look at younger riders. It's like if you're not on one of the development teams now, the best development teams are as good as the best World Tour teams. If you miss the under 23 cutoff, what makes it so hard is you end up on teams that can be a little bit crazier. And it's like, one of the teams I was on, like out of the first six races. Like, so in 2021, I kind of just like bet the whole year on coming to Europe and just like burning up my savings to do it. And I was living in this crazy place, and you bet the whole year on these races, and then team decides to not go because they don't want to pay for the gas money to get to the race, like driving there, halfway there, turn around, we're going home. Out of the first six races I did that year, like I didn't have a rear brake for five of them because like we had like the hydraulic fluid would just like leak out of the brakes. You'd press it like twice in the neutral zone and then it would just be empty and you have no rear brake. And we didn't have a mechanic to fix it, and they didn't trust me to like take the bike home because I don't know, like if they thought I was gonna like run away to Canada with the bike or something like that. Or like you go to a race and like maybe we don't have spare wheels if you get a flat tire, or maybe you have someone to give you bottles in the feed zone. Like it's not like a sad story or anything like that. Like that's how it is for everybody, but that's the reality. Like trying once you're out of the under 23s, like the standard you have to meet to make it as a pro as you get older gets higher because you have to show them like, hey, I'm good enough to beat the best riders in the world. So you have to be like killing it at the biggest races. But it's like it's pretty hard when it's like you're trying to spin so many plates on your own. And so I mean, I tried for 5 years like that on like all these different teams. Like I really tried every avenue for that, but it's pretty tough. And so that's just the reality. So when people say it's like, oh, why aren't you in the World Tour now? It's like no World Tour team is going to sign me without a big race result now. So yeah, okay. So like people do
Whoa,
get
okay. You
go for it.
rattled off a lot of races there. I couldn't quite keep up, but I'm going to bring it back to your little ride around in Bormio. So the Stelvio
Yeah.
KOM now belongs to you. So
Yeah.
one of the climbs of professional cycling. And to put it in context, so your time was, and you even put your power down, so thanks for that. 395 watts is what you averaged over the whole thing. Your time was 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 15 seconds. To put
No,
that in
no, 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 no,
perspective,
no. It's faster than that.
oh,
108 something
faster.
like
Okay, this is one of your KOM, so I'm sure there's a variety of it. But this one's impressive because number two is Jad Hindley. I think that was from the 2020 where him, Theo Gegenhardt, and Rowan
Rowan.
Dennis were the trio that went up there. Putting that in perspective, and then you've got Vincenzo Nibali's best time on the segment. Okay, he might have done it faster, but the one that's visible is 1 hour, 12 minutes. Fausto Masnada. There's a lot of World Tour pros that you're in front of. So the whole World Tour argument, yes, I completely agree. I think you should be on a World Tour. And I get your whole thing of like, yada, 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 not a good result. But if you can do this, it doesn't really matter about a good result. Then you've got the engine, then you can do it. That's what I mean. I'm not
I
buying your thing. You should
I
have the contract now. That should be proof.
I love it. And the funny thing is, it's like, so that video, like this wasn't also planned. Like, so the thing is, so what I was saying before, it's like, so I did all these races and I did well at them. And then people were like, oh, you got to like try to go for a pro contract or something like that. Like you should try this Zwift Academy thing. And I'm like, oh, come, like I'm not motivated. Like the hardest part is getting Jack motivated for the trainer. But I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Like I'll try. Like I'm horrible at the trainer, but I will give it a shot. I will try it. And then so I was doing it. And I'm so bad on the trainer, man. Like the thing is just telling me I suck the whole time. And I really like it really bents my ego. And so on like a Sunday, I was doing one of these workouts on the trainer, and it was just like everything's going wrong. Nothing wants to connect. Everything needs to calibrate. And I'm like, I just want to do a workout. And now everything's going wrong with it. And so I just like texted my coach. I'm like, okay, I did like half the workout today. I'm going to rest tomorrow. And then I'm going to go ride outside. Like I'm going to go drive to the bottom of the Stelvio and I'm just going to go test myself up that just because I wanted to see like how I'm going because everything is telling me I'm terrible right now. And I'm like, I just want to see how I go outside. Like I went and did it. And then like I took like this quick little short video at the top of the climb, like, and it was freezing cold. It was like 1 degree and raining. I'm like, oh, I don't even want to do this. Like, whatever. It's just like a quick little video. Let's get out of here. Cause like my buddy Thomas was with me. We just like take this quick little video and we like get out of there. And I put it on Instagram and it went like, I'm not big on Instagram, but it was like 270,000 views in however long. And everybody shared. I'm like, what? Like this? Like out of anything? Because like the thing was, it's like, I don't. I know I'm going to sound like such a dick, so I don't even want to say this, but it wasn't actually that great of a performance for me. Like it was okay. So like for the people who like
Were
the
you
number, it
riding on
was
power? Were you looking at your power meter when you were doing
yeah,
it,
yeah,
or were
yeah.
you just going for it?
No, totally. I was looking at power the whole time. So actually, this is like if people want like training secrets and stuff like that. So with this coach that I have, he is I've talked to so many of the best riders and coaches in the world through my podcast, and I've been very lucky for that. I mean, if I could pick any coach in the world, I'd pick Steve Neal. Like really, he's unbelievable. And he loves all these data and numbers, and I'm not that. I'm the guy who turns his training into a game to go have fun. He is like data, numbers, all this stuff. He uses all these different softwares to set up my training for me. One of the ones that he uses, and this is like the secret weapon stuff if people want like the training stuff, is called Exert. And I'd never heard of this before, but it's like ERT. And it's a Canadian guy. I think the guy that made it, I think he like invented the BlackBerry or something like that, and then retired and liked cycling. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna like build some software for cycling now. And he went and built this, and I'd never heard of it before. I'm like, okay, cool. He uses this, and it uses, I don't know if it's like AI or what it does, but basically to gauge your training zones, and it's unbelievably accurate. For the Kutai race that I did, that I won, it was basically like an hour-long time trial up a mountain. And just to like give guys an idea on how accurate this thing is, before I did that race, my coach went in and looked at the numbers, and this software predicted that I would do maybe 398 watts or something like that for the hour-long effort or something like that. I didn't see those numbers. And then when I was doing the race, I wasn't looking at my power meter, I was just racing. And I went as hard as I could on this race. I got to the top, and I think my normalized or average or whatever it uses was like 401. So it was off by 3 watts on a perfect test for that. Like it's so accurate for this. It's crazy. And so he uses this to like basically set up all my training zones and stuff like that. So it's just super accurate that way, which is what I thought was cool because it constantly, like, it looks at every workout you do and it constantly keeps adjusting your FTP every time you do it. So it's super accurate that way. So for the Stelvio one, it's like he guessed that it's like, okay, you could probably do. So I beat I beat it there. Like it said I could do, and it also doesn't factor in the altitude. So that's what a lot of people were, and for people who want to know like my weight, like they like that stuff. So the Stelvio day I was 67 kilos, fueled up after breakfast, all that kind of stuff, whatever that watts per kilo is. But yeah, it doesn't factor in the altitude, so I actually beat the test a bit that way. But like you saying like you going crazy about the Stelvio thing and everybody going nuts. I'm like, what? Like really? Like I've done better performances in the past. Like that wasn't that great for
Oh
it's
yeah,
great.
just
Like I don't
strictly
want to sound
KOM. Not
arrogant.
that great, guys. Chill.
No, it is great. It's wonderful. I love it. I've worked really, really hard at this. But for example, like I got invited to like some team training camps, like some World Tour team training camps years ago in 2021, actually. And then like I smashed another KOM there and the numbers were way better on that. And I was like, okay, that's the best Jack. Like that's what I want to try to get back to. This was just like me being pissed at my trainer, like being, or not my coach, my the indoor trainer, being like, this thing sucks. Like I just want to go try it myself out on the road. Yeah, like it was a good day. It wasn't like amazing or anything special. Like it wasn't.
Oh my God, I would like to have your okay days.
Yeah. Well, dude, this is all I've done my whole life. Like I've just been nuts about training for how long? You didn't ask the question, but it's just like a super common question I keep getting from everybody. It's like, how are you going so well off of like 4 months of training? And the, you have to let me give some context on this, but like the short answer I give them, it's like since I was 14 years old, I've never not tried so hard. And like I'm just so much more relaxed about my training because ever since I was a kid, it was like I was completely nuts about training. Like that's all I did was bikes. And now it's like I don't think about my training until I'm putting my shoes on because one, I it's not why I don't earn money from bikes right now. Like I earn my money from all the other stuff that I do. So that gives you like some peace where it's like, okay, you're a little bit more stable. Two, I have a coach. So it's like I don't have to think about my training. I'm putting my shoes on. I look at the computer being like, or like I'll look at the training the day before. So I know what to have for dinner the night before and stuff like that. But like I get back from training, I stop and I don't think about it. I go back to work. You just have so much more peace. Like you can just relax. Like you're not stressed and like gripping the handlebars too tight. And so that's it really.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I want to go into the numbers a bit more. Okay, I am completely frothing over that Stelvio KRM. But yeah, you said it wasn't your best numbers. So, like,
Do you want the best numbers?
yeah, what's the best numbers?
So I'm a little bit
Are
lighter
you
right
listening,
now.
World Tour coaches? I know there's a few spots available for 2025.
Yeah, so this is actually pretty cool. So because I'll give you all the numbers, that's fine. What's cool is because like I wrote a book that basically was just giving all the advice for like younger me. And so because of that, I had to go through all my training data ever since I was a kid for this. And I have data for like over 10 years, and it was cool just to go through that. So for people who are curious about like the development path or like what that looks like, that progression, this is how it was for me. So I came from playing hockey and being a mountain biker. And so when I was a junior, like when I was 18 years old, that's when I got my first power meter. And at 18, so I was 75 kilos, and I got like my first SRM on a Sunday. And then like the Thursday of that week, because this is funny because I went back and found this file. I'd like won every time trial I'd done that year as a junior. And then I got but I was just pacing it off of like heart rate and speed. That's all I used. I got a power meter on a Sunday, and then there was a weekly Thursday night time trial on, yeah, a Thursday. And I went and did it, and it was 19 minutes and 40 seconds. And the average power was 430, and the normalized power was 441 or 442, which is like, I look at that now and I'm like, that's fucking amazing. Like on a time trial bike for 20 minutes, like 440, that's nuts. But I didn't know what it meant. Like I sent the coach, I look at my Training Peaks comments on that workout, and it's like, I think I did well. I didn't hit my max heart rate in the first 10 minutes, and then I hit my max heart rate by the end, and I won and I broke the course record. So I think it's good. And then I sent the file to my coach, and he was just like, or he asked me what power numbers I did, and I told him because I didn't know what this meant, and I was like, "Is that good?" And he's like, "Well, buddy, like when Luke Durbridge won the junior world time trial championships, I think he did 430, and he's quite a bit bigger than you, so yeah, you did really well." And that was like the first moment because I was 18 at the time. Like that's every kid that goes on. It's like you have these little moments early in your career where you really believe you could be great, and you're like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" And then you just train so much harder, and so the development path for me is those numbers pretty much stayed the same throughout my whole career. I just slowly got lighter. I think probably one of the best ones that people like look at is, or one of the best ones from my career was 2019. I trained like a monster in North America, like crazy, crazy training. That's the hardest I've ever trained in my life, or at least the most hours by far. And then I came to Europe because it was just before I came to Europe in February of 2019, and we had like team training camp in Mallorca. And for the 20-minute test there, I did 477 watts at 71 kilos. So that's like the best one, 477 for 20 minutes at 71 kilos. That was like the best one there. So that's 2019. And then 2021, yeah, 2021, how I got invited to those training camps was, I'm only saying this because I know some people really like the numbers, and for me, it was really motivating as well, like to hear these numbers. But I was going really well, and then like the races kept getting canceled, and all this, or like we weren't going to the races, and then the performance director for Israel Startup Nation reached out to me, being like, "Hey man, how's it going? Like, how you doing? All this kind of stuff." I'm like, "Dude, I'm doing everything I can, but like, we're not even going to the races now. Like, I have nothing." And so he asked me to like send him the training data and stuff like that. And I was like, "Here it is." And then it's like the numbers were really good. So all the suspicious questions start like, what power meter is this? When was it calibrated? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, the numbers are off. Like, they're great. Like, it's an SRM. I got a service 5 weeks ago or whatever. Like, the numbers are right. And then, like, I was probably being more cocky than I'm recalling now about it. But so he sent me a Strava KOM that like one of the best climbers in the world had at the time, and it was like close to where I live, and he's like, "Go do that if you're going so great then." And or he said like, "Go do it tomorrow" or something like that. And I was like, "Oh fuck," because now you're like, now you hope your legs can back up your big mouth. Like I went and I broke the record on it, but like, and to be fair, like I was trying. Like I was doing this like a time trial. Like this pro might have just done it in the middle of, I'm sure he tried his hardest, but I don't know if he targeted it. But that was 451 watts for 24, 25 minutes, something like that. That was me going really good. 2022, I broke my pelvis in the middle of the season, and that kind of like ruined my season. And then I went back to altitude and just trained like a madman. And then I went and did this test with Bora, the Red Bull Bora now. They have a performance test they give everybody. And this was like one of the moments where everything in the world lined up for me perfect, because I went to like this. So okay, here's another one for people who like the numbers. Also in 2021, I broke the record up the Satellite climb, which is like the perfect test climb in the world. And it's one of the climbs that goes up to Kutai. And I think that was 34 minutes or something like that. In the VAM, it's like 1,850 or something like that. So it's like, it's really good for that. That's like one of the best ones I have. And I think the watts were, I don't know, 430 or something like that. Anyways, the next year, so 2022, I was like, oh, I think I'm going pretty good now. I'm going to go back to that same climb and like test myself, see how I'm going compared to last year. As I'm pulling my bike out of the back of the car, I see these juniors go by, and they're all wearing like really good kits. Like they're from all the best development teams in the world. I'm like, huh, like what are they doing here? Like they're not from around here. And then I look the other way and the Bora team car is following them. So I had had all these interviews with Dr. Christian Schrott, who's the head of scouting for Bora, or at least I think he's leaving now, but he was, and he runs the development team. I'd had all these interviews with him the year before when I kind of went through their scouting process. He told me to do this test. Now, by chance, I'm going good and run into him at the bottom of the climb when they're doing the test with everybody else. And he's like, "Yeah, you want to do the test with us?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I do." Motivation is just like peak. And I broke all my power records that day. And then, like, the one that people like is the 10-minute effort was exactly 500 watts. And I was so proud of that because if it was 499, I would have lost my mind. But like, and I like killed myself for that. And that's also 71 kilos. And now I'm just lighter. Like, so I'm like 66 to 68 kilos now. Like, I've just lost a bunch of weight from working mostly because I just forget to eat. I'm just like, I literally just forget to eat. So then I've lost a lot of weight. But that's it. Like, I mean, those are like the big numbers that I have, or like, that's what I'm trying to get back to. So like when I did the Stelvio one, it's like, and then for people who like the data numbers, I posted all of it. Like my heart rate, I think was like 160 for everything except like the last 10 minutes. Like it wasn't like I was kind of tired for it. Like I was just doing it. It was supposed to just be like a training day. I didn't think it would go that well.
And you were
And I,
wearing a raincoat, or you were definitely not dry. It wasn't a summer weather.
no,
You
it was like just
that's another thing I think is quite impressive.
yeah, it was, yeah, it was like snowing at the top or good. The weather was good because like when it's a bit cooler like that, you can also go faster, like when you're not overheating. And the other thing is like those guys did it in the Giro. Yeah, okay, they're like really, really, really good riders and they're like racing, but also they did it in the middle of a race. Like I did it like a time trial.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. But what is the next steps then? Because the Stelvio might not be in the Giro d'Italia. There's plenty of teams, World Tour and Pro Continental teams that are riding that. So I don't see why Bardiani or someone like that wouldn't phone you up as well either, or Q36.5. Yeah, but how would it be for you to kind of configure your life back into the full-time pro? I guess you wouldn't say no
No,
if
of
any of
course.
these
And
guys
like
came and said, "Hey Jack, saw your numbers, great numbers, come do a test with us."
yeah, for sure. That's the dream. Like that's still by far that's still my biggest dream. I would love to be able to still reach the tour in the Olympics and stuff like that in the World Tour. No question. Like if I had the opportunity, absolutely I would go for it. I'm not as desperate for it this time because it's like I've kind of just like I have other things in my life now that's like I really enjoy doing. Like I like using my brain in front of the computer all day and stuff like that. So it's like if that opportunity came up, amazing. Like I would jump on it, a dream come true. But I'm just like, I'm not so desperate. Like I have to make it. I have to make it because then like you're not even sleeping at night then. Like you have to really want it. So here's the thing that comes up a lot is when people talk about like riders perform best when they're on a contract year because they're like so desperate. Yeah, that works for like a year, but not five when that. It's like you really can't get the best out of yourself and you don't enjoy it. Like I enjoy training so much more than I ever have now because it's just like you have a bit of peace. Like you can just enjoy it. It's not like you have to make it. But yeah, I mean, if I had an opportunity to go for it, for sure I would. And I mean, the ego part of me, yeah, I do think I'm good enough to race at that level. I really do. I really wish I had the chance, but that's the hard part is getting the opportunities. And on the cover of my book is a triangle and it shows talent, hard work, and opportunity. And it's like, I think most people have enough talent. You have to work insanely hard. And then the sort of like one of the overarching themes in my book is like, you have to design a life that you enjoy so much, you're willing to stick around for your opportunities because no one gets lucky in cycling. Like it's brutally hard, but there's a lot of bad luck as well. So you have to just keep getting up, keep showing up to try. And that's the thing. Like everybody was asking me, like my friends had seen me out training in the dark and the rain over like the last year or so. And they're like, "What are you training for?" And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "I don't know what I'm training for, but I'll be ready when it shows up." What was your question? Like, what are the goals and stuff? Like, what am I doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've kind of touched on it, and no, I just think, well, anyone who's been listening this far will have definitely just felt your infectious character as well and positivity. So I just think it's a bit of a shame that you have the numbers, you have the talent, and it's just, yeah, well, COVID also was kind of an
Yeah, that
obstacle.
was hard.
Just the bounce back, I think, is absolutely insane and incredible. I just have to say that, Jack. I really admire that.
Thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate that. And dude, it's like I said, like we were standing on top of this mountain, like freezing, and we are like, let's get out of here. And then my buddy's girlfriend called and then asked, like, how's it going? It's all this kind of stuff because she knew we were gonna like go try to go smash it at the Stelvio. And then we're like, yeah, we're freezing. Like we're gonna. I was like, no, you guys have to take a photo at the top. And we're like, oh, come on, take a photo. Like for what? We're freezing here. Like let's go. And then like we take this stupid like little video for a second, and then everybody shares it. I'm like, huh? This really? I'm like, okay, I get it. It's the Stelvio. It's really cool. And don't get me wrong, like I love it, right? For the rest of my life, like somebody can go break it tomorrow. But like for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be able to like look at my kids one day and be like, I did the Stelvio and the big chain ring when I was your age. It's like, like it's like at some point, even if it was only for like a week or two, I have the record of that. And I'm really proud of that.
How was the Stelvio for you? We haven't really touched on that. How was the ride itself? Because the Stelvio can be very cold.
I've done that climb so many times. Like I've probably done the Stelvio 50 times in my life. Like I've done so many training camps in Livigno and stuff, and so I know the climb really well. But like I said, I wasn't really on a great day, so I was like, I really kind of just wanted to quit most times because I was like, oh, I'm kind of tired here. Like my heart rate's not really going up. And I don't really feel the magic in my legs right now, or like, yeah, the good legs. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'll keep going. And yeah, I went as hard as I could. I'd like to be clear. It's not like I took it easy. I was like dead by the top of it. I really tried very hard, but like it just, I didn't think it was that special of a day. That's all.
My goodness. Yeah, I mean, if it's not the World Tour, if they're all like kind of full up, I mean, Q36.5 or Israel Premier Tech, that kind of screams your name right now. But yeah.
I'd love it if there was a chance, man. Believe me, I've done it. And like when people ask, like, why don't you try? It's like, buddy, I've been trying for more than half my life. Like, I have really
Yeah.
done everything I can. I really have tried, and I absolutely would love it. But like the reality is, so the thing is, you need three things to make it as a pro. You need the engine, like to show you can be a world-class athlete. Like the
Pick.
physiology has to be there. Yeah, that's always been my best one. That's always been the strength that I've had. You need to show that you'll fit in with the team well. Like you're not a dickhead. Like you like people will like
Tick.
you.
Yeah, what's the next one?
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, buddy. And then the third one, you need to know how you know to drive the car because anyone can do like big power numbers and stuff like that. Do you know how to race your bike? And that's the one where
How
it's
many
like
races had you won this year? Okay.
yeah, yeah, sure. Well, this year I'm the
So
king of
tick, tick, tick.
kindergarten.
Oh, there we
This year I'm
go.
winning all the amateur races, but th this one always kind of bit at me a little bit because, like, for example, yeah, I guess the best example I can give you is like 2021, for example. That yeah, so like there's a lot of examples like this, but to paint the picture, it's like 2021. I did everything possible to get to that race and or to be like racing well there. And then like the biggest race of the year that I bet the season on, and I was like flying the week before I got left off the roster because the team only wanted to take Austrian riders to the biggest race of the year because it would make the sponsors happy. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then but so like that was horrible. Like that crushed me. That broke my heart to have that. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like I've done everything to get here to get this chance. And now it's like we're picking the roster based on where your passport comes from. That like 2 days later is when I got the text message from that performance director at Israel Startup Nation, like Paulo, saying like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing next week?" And I told him it's like, "Well, I'm supposed to be at this race, but I'm not going because of whatever." And then he's like, "Oh, well, like Chris Froome and the tour team are having a training camp in Annecy to like recon some of the tour stages. And it's going to be like the last selection camp for the Tour de France. Like, if you want, you can join it if you can get there." I'm like, "Dude, I will go to Jupiter." If like I can be there, like yes, I'm there. And then like I was flying there. Like that was the best week of my life. Like nothing could have gone better there. Like best legs, every like the guys were so cool. I had so much fun there. It was amazing. And so like check, like okay, he fits in with the team. He has great numbers. Does he know how to race the bike? But what a lot of these teams see is they just look at pro cycling stats. And I didn't have any big results there, but the details that like I try to advise other guys trying, it's like, look, like for the first 6 races I didn't have a rear brake on my bike, or or like you don't have somebody giving you water in the feed zone, or like if you get a flat, like maybe you have spare wheels, maybe not. Like these are things that these are not marginal gains, and that's the stuff where it's like you got to keep trying because like this shit happens so much, but it makes you look pretty shitty. Like it's like, oh, he has the best numbers. Why hasn't he won anything yet? Like that's the big question. Like if a pro team is looking at somebody who's a bit older and has amazing numbers, the first question they're going to ask is, okay, if he's this strong, why hasn't he won a race yet? And that's hard. Like it's hard on your ego for that. And it hurts. That's why you just keep trying. Like, because I kept getting these dots of proof where it's like, you're good enough to race at the highest level. Like, just don't quit. You're so close. You just need the stars to align and it'll come through. And so, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm at peace with it as well. Like I really tried as hard as I could. If it came together, amazing. But there's nothing more I could have done.
Well, it's been a great conversation, Jack, and I'm crossing all my fingers, and I'm going to be sending this interview to all the performance directors that haven't filled their rosters yet. But
Thanks,
yeah,
buddy.
as always, thank you for your time, Jack. And all the details is Instagram if you want to see the really cool video. Obviously, we're going to use it here of him with the Stelvio, but and the podcast as well, and the book. That'll all be in the description below. And yeah, I wish you all the best, Jack, for
Thank you
sure.
so much, Scott. I really
Uh,
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
until the
buddy.
next one. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one anyway.
Hell yeah. Okay, cool, buddy. Talk to you later.